Hello, and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Adita Karkera, Chief Data Officer of the Government and Public Services Practice with Deloitte. And today I have the pleasure to have with me here Ravi Krishnan, Chief Data Officer for the state of North Dakota. Welcome, Ravi.
Thank you, Adita. Glad to be here.
Were there any major things that came up that you think are going to become permanent in your model of service, not just for your office, but overall as a state as well?
The big thing out of the pandemic, we all know, about remote work. I think everybody talks about remote work and how we have the ability to hire talent wherever they are located. So that does bring a lot of flexibility. But beyond that, I think this whole concept of virtual work environments has encouraged people to think about things related to making a difference, right? We find that it has actually motivated people. And it's like a compressed spring. Through the pandemic, people were holding off all their pet projects. So I predict in the next 2 to 5 years, all those projects are going to get slowly released, not just with North Dakota, but across the United States and across the world, frankly. Then all of these projects are going to just go full steam ahead, right? I think that's going to be the big change. It's going to stay with us for a while. That's what I see is a lot of pent-up demand, a lot of interesting, innovative projects that did not get the attention. So I see that trend running for the next 3 to 5 years, and that's going to stay with us. Obviously, digital transformation happened through the pandemic. Everybody knows how to do shopping using their mobile apps, whether it's the favorite grocery store or a retailer, right? And then drive-through shopping, just pickups using a mobile phone, parking in your spots and getting to that. Those things were there previously, but they were never at that scale that we saw through the pandemic. So a lot of the customers or the citizens that we serve have come to expect the same kind of rigor and the same kind of experience that they have with the private sector. So the big challenge for us is how do we build those applications? How do we get them the same kind of quality of service that they would get from the private sector? And obviously, within government, we do have our challenges, but it's something we aspire towards. It's, let's take all those private sector best practices. Let's also become a truly digital enterprise.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Oftentimes we've heard the saying that government may be a little behind than the private sector, but conversations like this inspire us to say that, we're right on the same path and we can get there too as quickly. I know North Dakota's leadership, especially your CIO, has often been heard talking about having a citizen-centric approach to government on several occasions. And I'm curious, as you talked a little bit about AI and ML-powered platforms, which particular citizen services are you trying to keep in focus as you move forward with further AI and ML deployments? So would you mind talking to the audience a little bit about what kind of use cases or initiatives that are underway or ones that you're aspiring for?
Sure. Within the analytics space, I classify this as in a couple of different ways, right? One is from the point of view of traditional AI versus machine learning versus predictive analytics. I believe they're all part of one continuum, right? And as time progresses, we're finding that the lines are getting blurry and more blurry, right? There's obviously all these services that, even 5 years ago, we were thinking of this is going to be this amazing service that will require stacks of people to build and maintain. And now with the advent of cloud, all of that is available to us at our fingertips. All those functions that are, AI driven, right? Whether it's, a Microsoft Azure or AWS, any of that. So we are looking to getting that level of sophistication available to our data scientist community and being able to do ethical AI. It's just gets into a little bit of, if you feed the data, if you feed the machine too much of data, it gets smarter by the day, but it also knows too much. So we got to have some guardrails around how do we train these data sets to not have the incorrect biases and things like that. But the two areas of focus, again, would be initial focus at least, would be things related to the Department of Public Instruction, student learning outcomes, right? Making predictions around, student learning and how they're going to do well, how well they're going to do in school, how are they going to go to college, are they in danger of dropping out, connecting that with other, data that we have access to, like we talked about earlier, right, across agencies. So I think that would be one area of focus. We do want to make sure that from a citizen point of view, that's kind of like, taken care of. The second aspect I'll say is around, when you talk about diseases, right, infectious diseases and so on, I know some efforts have been made to kind of build those models that will predict, diseases that are expected to be prevalent based on, perhaps CDC data. There's data from other, health agencies, trends that are observed. Weather data, right, for example, can also be a good predictor for, different types of diseases. So making sure that they're all connecting these into, a smart models that can start, providing some of that service internally. So the governor and his, cabinet members are ready to handle those. So we are in the early stages of building those models, but we do want to continue that path. The bigger thing for me, I'd say, is also around, not so much around, the traditional, making predictions, but also identifying patterns and trends. AI is very good at that part. It may not give you like a specific recommendation saying, hey, this means this. And the interpretation of it can often be left to a human, which I think is best left to a human in some instances. But identifying those patterns, over scale, over a period of time, I think that's something that, whether it's like we talked about, the education data, human services data, whether it's a Department of Transportation, traffic data, financial institution data with the Department of Financial Institutions. So there's a whole bunch of things that we could do, connecting all of that data at scale and trying to draw inferences based on interesting data sets. This is a great time to be a data scientist in this day and age, right? Because they have access to all the data that they need. We need to make sure that they're empowered to ask those questions, think outside the box. Good financial, output, for example, we have a public sector bank within North Dakota called Bank of North Dakota. And this may be an interest to your viewers, is the only public sector bank in the country that's, owned by a state government. So this is, it's a well-kept secret, not so well-kept secret anymore. But we are partnering with the Bank of North Dakota to, also help them through some of their analytics needs, connect that to things that they would need with respect to automation. And so we have, that other aspect of automation. Like, can AI help with automation? Absolutely. There are tools out there that will actually learn your processes, your business processes, your, day-to-day existing workflows, and try to automate them so that the dependency on a human to push buttons is reduced, and they can be deployed towards, high value tasks, which we have plenty of, right? There's just so much of work to be done. So we can automate the routine tasks and then focus on the high value ones. So we have a bunch of initiatives happening in the automation space too.
Well, that's very exciting, Ravi. You shared a bunch of use cases, and sounds like you have an exciting roadmap planned of the areas that you want to focus on and kind of bring around automation and all the power of ML and AI platforms to kind of help citizen services. I think the use cases that you mentioned around student outcomes, disease outbreak, and also just trending, I think those are such powerful use cases, especially with what you said. I feel like government is like a gold mine for data scientists, right? I mean, there's so much data for them to leverage, and some of the use cases that you identified are really exciting pieces of work. So I look forward to tracking your journey and seeing how that is moving forward. Two things that you mentioned earlier. I know you talked about challenges around ethics and challenges around not having that black box idea of your AI models. How do you ensure that your AI work is trustworthy? That is something that you said you're still exploring. We talked a little bit about data being fit for purpose, and as you mentioned, that plays a big role as you input that data into your AI models. The only other thing that I wanted to also get your thoughts on was how do you see data literacy and AI literacy playing a piece in this bigger puzzle? And is that not a challenge to you in what you're seeing across agencies right now?
That's a interesting perspective around data literacy, because data literacy is really at the heart of any data transformation effort, right? Enabling our customers to, one, understand how data is organized, having the ability to work with data, recognizing how data can be used to solve problems, and then how to also communicate with data. So I think those are all areas that we want our customers to be aware of. So we have an internal initiative at the moment, which is actually across the state, and is not just within the agencies that we work with, but it's a formal training program that has been instituted to convey exactly this to all employees within the state, to kind of look for ways to use data to solve problems creatively, and then being able to ask for what they need with a lot more clarity. What business questions do they need answered? And when there's data literacy around understanding how data is set up, how data can be used to visualize what they're looking for, and then to make predictions and trends, it's powerful. And almost guarantee that across the world, many opportunities are lost because our customers have not been able to articulate it, right? And this is not a symptom that's seen in any one agency or in any one government, but it's just the trend is, the world has still not caught up to the power of data, even though we talk about being data driven and data is a new petroleum or the new oil, right? It's not sunk into all quarters. It does feel like, a lot more could be done to bring awareness of how to use data to solve problems, how to talk data, how to make decisions with data. So we grow smarter together when we use data, and that's just something that we're going to focus on in our training.
Well, on that high note, Ravi, wanting to grow smarter together and moving towards a positive future, I want to thank you for joining me today and for sharing all your perspectives with me and the audience, including sharing a secret, which is the audience is going to love hearing about. As for the audience, please continue to visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. Ravi, again, thank you for your time and sharing your perspectives today.
Thank you, Adita. It was a pleasure talking to you today. I appreciate your time as well.